Wealthy people do three things. They stop trading time for money. They make their money work for them. And they give as much value to people as they can.
Leon Howard is a master investor and trader who has been involved with Wall Street for over 2 decades. He has a strong understanding of the markets and knows how to maximize returns for his clients. He has a unique ability to spot opportunities in the market and quickly capitalize on them. He has been successful in both short-term and long-term investments, making him a valuable asset to any investor. Leon is a dedicated professional who is passionate about his work and enjoys helping others find success in the markets. So, Leon Howard is definitely someone you should listen to, and here is his opinion.
There's the exposure part. So like just coming up in the streets, you only see the game from the lowest level. And you look at everybody else in part admiration and part like jealousy. Cause you see it and you're like, damn, I'll never get there. Wealthy people stop trading time for money. They start making their money work for them, and they give value to as much value to people as they can. The reason why you give people so much value is because if you give them so much value, they'll never leave you and they'll always be there for you, and you will never need for anything as long as you give value to people. Wealthy people, first they get into stocks, then they start a business, and then they get real estate. So when people ask me, how did I get into stocks? It's because I followed that rule. I used to get up in the mornings and watch CNBC, Squawk Box, Jim Cramer. And I'd be like, damn, these motherfuckers making all this money and they not risking their life. Something gotta change for me. Like something gotta change. And so I just started listening to them every day, and I started comparing it to the streets. A good business is just like a good hustler. A good business has great product. They have great clientele. A great hustler has a great product. He has consistent clientele. A good business on the stock market has what's called a moat, a competitive edge that keeps his competitors away. A good hustler on the street is gonna have that competitive edge where they be like, nah, yo, I ain't rocking with you. I'm gonna just wait till trap come back, right? So there's the competitive edge. A good business has a good branding moat, meaning my name is good, right? So a good hustler on the street, yo, Trap got that blue magic. I'm good on you. Like if I can't get Trap, I'm gonna just go Trap. But Trap got that blue magic, that's what I'm rocking with. Branding mode, right? That's it. A great business on the stock market has more assets, more liquidity than debt. A good hustler on the street is, if you don't learn how to fund your business, if you're operating where all you have is re-up money, you're not gonna last long. So those components reminded me the same. On the stock market, in the world, if a company's paying tariffs, that's equivalent to a dude on the street going pay draft to go hustle in somebody's hood. Like you can't hustle over here unless you pay me draft. It's the same as a tariff. It's the same thing. Yeah. So once I broke the game down to a way that I can understand it, it wasn't about me just being brilliant. It was like, yo, how do I make the game winnable for me? For me, the understanding the basics and the fundamentals. Like once you start understanding the fundamentals, you give yourself power, because you now understand, like you said, you see how the machine works, right? And so most people look at the machine and marvel and say most people look at the stock market, 98% of the people who I know look at the stock market and say, yo, that's not a game I can play. I'm staying away from it. And so the way it's set up is, the world is set up, well, listen, cool, I don't even want you to play it. Just give me your money, I'll play it for you. Right. So when we look at like banks, like we understand that banks don't necessarily work in our favor, right? So banks only give us 0.05% interest on the money we have there. Well, we can get 8% just by putting our money in the index fund. So why would I just sit my money in a bank and let the bank make all the money? Because all they're gonna do is invest the money for you. So they're now operating as the plug. They operate now as the man who, I'm gonna front you this, I'm gonna make my money, I'm gonna take the cut, I'm gonna give you just enough to keep coming back. I wanna go to the plug. Who is the plug? The stock market, right? And so once I understood the fundamentals of like, the most important thing too, is we don't understand how money works. That's a whole different language in its own. The relationship with money in my community is, you make money, just enough to pay bills. And so once you get tired of paying bills, you say, you know what? I need to treat myself to something, right? No matter if I gotta go in debt, no matter if I need to treat myself to something to take this misery away. So you treat yourself to something that you can't afford at the time, right? But it makes you feel good in the moment. And so because it makes you feel good, you say, you know what? I'm living. This is a reprieve from everyday struggle. Let me get back on the hamster wheel. And so the sacrifice now becomes hard because now you saying, I gotta work, and never get that reprieve. I'm not willing to do that, right? And so that's the mindset comes in and say, everybody around me had the same problem. No one represented the solution. So if I don't change something, I'm only going to end up like everybody else I know. Somebody has the solution somewhere. There's too many people out here living the life of their dreams that I'm watching. They know something I don't know. And the only thing that they had was access to a different type of information. And so I realized how powerful it was for me to, one, become economically powerful in my mind. Because the thing about investing, especially in stocks, is that piece of ownership of everything that I use now makes me say, well, if I own that Apple, God, I don't care about buying an Apple phone. Right. If I'm gonna wear Levi's and I'm gonna wear Timberlands, if I can own VFC Corp, then I own the stuff that I'm buying. I'm okay with that. Like that subtle shift in my mindset changed everything for me. Because now I was after just owning everything that I consumed. In the beginning, that was my introduction to the game. Let me just own everything I consume and then I'll feel okay. What happens when you go do a 5-10 year bid and you come home and nobody can't give you money? At least if you got it in the stock market, when you come home, you up. Your money been working for you for 10 years, 5 years. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta make the game winnable in the language that we can understand. And so once you learn English, now you say, you know what, I wanna learn Spanish, I wanna learn French, I wanna learn that, because now you understand the power of words. Right. And so once they started understanding the power of the game, it was like, okay, I can play this game. I actually got that term from Warren Buffett in one of his meetings. I want to say it was the 1995 shareholder meeting. And he said that owning a stock is owning a percentage of a great business. And so once I understood that concept, I understood that the key to wealth is through ownership. Like that was one of the things that made it click, because I studied the wealthy people. When you study Reginald White, one of the first black men to make $1 billion on Wall Street, it was about, he wanted it to have ownership. So I said the key to building wealth is not how much you can work. You can't work your way to wealth. You gotta invest your way there. And all wealthy people, black, white, Asian, Chinese, they own a whole bunch of shit. The people who aren't wealthy is because they don't own nothing. You only have your money sitting in cash. If your money is just sitting in cash, realistically, you're becoming poorer every day.
Right, or they own depreciating assets.
And that's what cash is. It's a depreciating asset, because the more money they print, the more money that money loses value. It's the reason why the bank wants you to have your money there, so they can take it and use it and invest it so much and be like, hey, it's just sitting, I'm gonna give you 50 cents on whatever you had in there. Right. And so the idea of ownership was, we can just start owning everything that no matter if it's just a stock. Like, that's powerful, because if you can start owning the businesses that you now consume every day, you turn a one-time transaction to a lifetime of profit. And that was major for me, because if I go to the store and buy a pair of Nikes, that's a one-time transaction. In order for me to get something from them again, I gotta come back and buy another pair of Nikes. But if I own the Nike stock, long as I've owned it, it's a profitable vehicle for me. So that one-time transaction can become a lifetime of profit if I own that business. If I'm gonna buy an Apple, if I know I'm an Apple user, if I know I got the phone, I got the AirPods, I got the MacBook, I got the PC, I excited when Apple's about to drop something, why wouldn't I own it? As much of it as I can, right? Like if I understand that concept, if I know America has one of the biggest trash problems in the world, right? So if I know that Waste Management is a company that's gonna be here forever because we aren't gonna stop throwing things away, why don't I own that company? Because I know everybody throws things away. And so now, instead of me getting excited about Apple Lime being around the corner because it's a new phone, I'm like, yo, y'all about to make me some money, right? So when I hear a company like Waste Management has bought 40 acres of disposable land for another landfill, I'm excited about that. And another great thing about the stock market is, for me, it now makes me pay attention to the world. And so now I understand what's going on in the world. I started learning business cycles, market cycles. Now I can understand, yo, this is okay. Things are going out of business. Okay, we're in this cycle. Okay, people are hiring. Okay, we're in expansion cycle. And so now I took an economic class on my own without just understanding the world. And so you start understanding when something is happening in China. Okay, something happening in China, so I own Apple. Apple has 20% of their revenue in China. Okay, they might take a little hit right now. You know what I'm saying? So the stock market helped me start understanding how the world moves, the fundamentals. Right? And so that's important. I understand that knowledge is what gives us leverage in life. It's not about how strong you are. It's about what you can learn. And then how can you actively apply that? I have this acronym called FEAR. Finally exiting average reality, right? And what happens is, until we can overcome the fear, some people actually fear success. Success comes with a lot, right? But until you can overcome that average reality that you live in, no matter what you're on, once you become comfortable there, it becomes average. Anyone can live in average. Everyone can live in mediocrity, right? Then there's those outliers who consistently push themselves to go to the next level. LeBron spends $1 million on his body, working out, eating right, agility, mobility, because he will never be average. And the thing about the human mind and the human body, it will go as far as you push it, right? There's science that says that Gandhi levitated before. The power of the mind. So you may look at it like, man, nobody can't levitate. You're out of your mind. But there's a level of meditation, concentration that you can lock into that can take you there. As long as you believe in it. Like you said, the only belief that matters is, what do you believe you can do? I personally believe that there is nothing I cannot do. And for me, it's all about impact, purpose, fulfillment. Like, the money is a byproduct of everything else. That isn't my focus. My focus is I have a knowledge and information that I know that can change lives. Not just one life, not just like lives. And so the way that you change lives is by consistently learning, finding new ways to put that information out there, being able to open up, being able to be vulnerable, because people need to connect. People connect to knowledge in the way that they can see two things that help people: imagery and vocabulary. What they see and what they hear, right? So most people won't connect to a certain knowledge because the people who speak it don't relate, and two, can't speak the knowledge in the way that they can eat it. So for me, it's always about, how do I attain as much? It's always a challenge for me. How can I attain as much knowledge as I can? Because I love learning. Like, I love learning, but then how do I take that and be able to now reciprocate it or give it to somebody who may not understand calculus or trigonometry, but if I can give it to them in this way, they can say, oh yeah, I got it. And there's more people that struggled in the world that has become successful. So struggle has to become a language that I struggle. So that's a language I'm great at. So if I can break down things into a struggle language, now I make it the game winnable for everybody. And that's the goal, to make the game winnable for everybody who's bold enough to step into the batting cage. If you bold enough to do that, I was bold enough to jump in a goddamn 152-foot tank with sharks in Dubai. If you're bold enough to do it, there's an experience that comes from that. And that experience is so exhilarating, it will take you to the next level. Because now you keep chasing the next level of you. And that is when you start understanding life at a whole nother concept, when you start understanding that, yo, for the longest, I was just low-level living. I was low-level thinking. Now that I've been exposed to something, and I say this often, whatever you haven't been exposed to isn't your fault. Once you get exposed to it, you now are accountable for it. And so once I've become exposed to so much knowledge and information, once I expose you to it, you're accountable, because now you can no longer say, I didn't know. And start where you are. You build a house brick by brick. But you build a mansion, you build an empire, you build it brick by brick. Like, you start with $25. And we have to understand, we're on a marathon. We didn't get into our situation overnight. Right? If we look back at our situation, you see you inherited that, whatever it is, that poverty. You inherited that mindset, that idea of scarcity, that idea that you don't have enough money. You inherited that. Building wealth becomes a revolutionary act. Because now you start saying, I'm gonna go against what I was taught, right? And so I said by starting with $25. If you can do $25 a month, that's cool. If you can do $25 a week, that's cool. Because what happens is, once you start understanding the power of how your money works, you'll start saying, yo, I don't need to do that because that's taken away from this. That 25 will now become $50. Guaranteed. That 50 will now become 100 because you're gonna start doing more with less. The person who works out and sees that they drop 10 pounds in 2 weeks says, you know what, I'm gonna go a little harder because I know if I can drop 10, I can drop 20, right? I know if I see one muscle shape up, I know it's possible. The word possible is so powerful. Possible changes the game. Instead of it being impossible, we now say I am possible or I'm possible. That changes the dynamic. So the first mindset is saying, invest in your first stock. It don't have to be a winner. It doesn't have to be a home run. It can be an AT&T stock that costs $26 right now. It may not be the best investment in the world, but you started, right? And the great thing about anything is you can't be great if you never go to practice. You can't hit 81 if you never get in the gym. Yeah. So just get in the gym and then find somebody who can teach you. Be dedicated to understand the process. Warren Buffett said he reads 500 pages a day. That lets me know I got a whole lot more reading to do, man. I'm an Audible book junkie right now because if he's the greatest investor, and if he's reading 500 pages a day, I don't know how he does it. But in my mind, if he's still learning, I got a whole lot of learning to do. If somebody like Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Spivey can pay Warren Buffett $1 million to have lunch with him, and these are already great investors who I look up to, if they can pay him $1 million to go have lunch with him, that means they're trying to learn. Their learning has to go to the next level. So if learning is the catalyst to everybody who's wealthy and successful, I can never be sufficient with what I know. And I think that has to happen too. We have to understand the power in learning and being educated, man.